Good evening and welcome to Mindful Life 465. I am your host Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. It is presently the 17th of February in the year of our Lord 2025. It's a good day. We're here in the beautiful land, the Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, paradise on earth, where they say God has his residence here personally. So they say. I listen to your content a lot. Appreciated, Michael William. Appreciated. I hope you learn. I hope you learn a lot. I hope you acquire quite a bit of information. Now saying we salting again. Nah. We outside. Last week the host was a bit under the weather, but host is up again in full health and full energy. So we are here. Had some kind of little flu running around the place last week. Some strange little flu running around the place, but that was dealt with thankfully. But once you're on the inside, make sure you hit that like button, double tap the screen out there on TikTok. That's how you hit the like button. Only 100 likes we're at. That's rookie numbers. We got to get those numbers pumping up there. Hit that like button as many times as you can. It doesn't cost anything. You double tap that screen as many times as you want. Allow the algorithm to know good stuff. What's your age though, if you don't mind me asking? Early 30s. I am a young millennial. That's where we'll generalize it at. Early 30s. I haven't crossed the midway part of 30 yet. Younger millennial. Good times. Having been able to grow up in the 90s, but still get that technology feel, even though it seems like we were the only real generation that were computer literate. These younger people are computer illiterate. You ask them to install something on a computer, they have no idea. Give them a phone, they only know phone and apps. Tell them to dig up in a computer, they know nothing. But our generation had that good stuff. We had that good stuff. All right. Lots of interesting news to talk about this evening today, and we'll be jumping directly in. What we're looking to jump in first this evening is missing ammunition. Thank you very much, Michael. Missing ammunition. You know, for a while now, on crime scenes all around the country, they were stumbling upon shells, empty rounds, that were stamped with the TTR logo or monogram or lettering. Strange stuff. Murder scene, and the murder scene littered with Trinidad and Tobago Regiment issued ammunition. Now, this has been occurring for years now, just by the way. It's not just something that happened over the last couple months. It's years this has been occurring. Last year, somewhere mid-last year, or earlier than mid-last year, there was an audit into this, because many people in the country were rightly asking questions. Where are all these bullets coming from? Are we as a country, beside just the point of them getting it in, like, okay, it's one thing to bring in the ammunition for the criminals, but it seems like we are bringing it in and giving them free, because if they are getting Trinidad and Tobago Regiment ammunition, that means the regiment is paying for that ammunition, and then the criminals are getting it. So the regiment isn't just being a facilitator, as in bringing it in, they're sponsoring it to madness. But last year they did an audit. The special branch, I believe it was, let me see if I didn't have that article actually pulled up, but I remember that article quite well. Well, not the article, the story quite well. An audit into the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment Ammunition Special Branch, I believe it was, did the going in to do that audit. Let's see if I pull up that quickly. Special branch to audit army guns 18th of May 2024. Let's pull that article up over on the YouTube there. Let's see. I hope YouTube. Oh, yes. Pull up the window, please, Mr. YouTube. Thank you. Yes, special branch to audit army guns. A year ago, Saturday, 18th May 2024, an audit at the armory of the regiment's Komoto base has been initiated by the police high command to verify that all military weapons are accounted for. The Komoto base in May of last year. May is midway through the year. May is what? 5? Month number 5? May. They did an audit at the Komoto base of our regiment because there were already reports of regiment ammunition all around the place. I seem to recall when they did this audit, they came out and said that they discovered nothing missing. There was nothing missing, nothing out of the ordinary coming out of the audit, reportedly. And then, what would you know, this year, just so, middle of February, 25,573 rounds of ammo missing from a regiment. Approximately 25,573 rounds of 5.56 ammunition in reserve for the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment were discovered missing earlier this month during a physical examination at the Komoto barracks. That's a lot of bullets. Was the audit done last year done on arms alone? I don't know. I didn't get the readout of the audit, so I don't know. I would suppose, though, if you're doing an audit on arms, you would include ammunition inside of that. Why would you audit the arms? Because you think something wrong may have occurred. You'd audit the arms, but not audit the ammunition. That seems very strange if that did happen. Same Komoto barracks. The ammo was removed from the Komoto barracks bunker and relocated to a nearby structure of the barracks compound sometime in 2022. That's 3 years ago. And it seems like between sometime in 2022 and when they just discovered it missing, they're not sure at what point in time how many left. Senior Army intelligence officers who decided to reveal this development told the Sunday Express last week that the missing ammunition recently prompted Chief of Defense Staff Air Vice Marshal Daryl Daniel to order a thorough audit of all munitions at Army facilities around the country. The audit was expected to have started yesterday, Saturday, and a board of inquiry into the missing ammunition is scheduled to be convened on Monday. The Defense Forces Intelligence Operation Unit has been tasked with investigating the missing ammunition at the Komoto barracks. There are many strange things all around this whole incident. In a gun-crazy country like ours, where guns aren't even legal generally for the wider public, you're telling me that the army, our military, has stores of ammunition that the criminals use most prominently, and they don't have a running check on this. The army has 20-something thousand rounds that they don't check in 3 years. They haven't checked their cache of ammunition in 3 years. How does that work? How does that work? How often does the army buy ammunition? How often do they buy ammunition? Because if you're buying ammunition every year, wouldn't you check to see what you currently have in stock? Wouldn't you make a current tally of what your inventory has? So how is it possible for them to be buying ammunition still and they don't even know what they have in stock? And this makes it seem like more than just them soldiers selling ammo, as in one little soldier or two, three little soldiers running a side job. Or more like, it seems more like this has to be something that the whole base turns a blind eye to. The entirety of the Komoto base is basically turning a blind eye to running a gun smuggling operation. Cardell says stock in most businesses are checked quarterly, so they really have no excuse. Listen, these are boxes of ammunition. Boxes of ammunition. A senior Army intelligence officer said, provided images for the story, said the ammunition was removed from the underground bunker in 2022 and placed in a room of a building about 100 meters away. At times, these specialized locations, bunkers, required either maintenance or upgrades. This means that, if necessary, the ammunition stored, as well as live explosives and pyrotechnic explosives, would have to be relocated temporarily. As with the case at Komoto Barracks, due to an issue with the location leaking, the reserve ammunition and other stuff were temporarily removed, a senior officer explained, speaking on the condition of strict anonymity. So, the original storage area for the ammunition was leaking. So they moved it temporarily to repair that location. Apparently, the repairs haven't been conducted for over 3 years. Okay. Another senior Army officer familiar with the incident told the Sunday Express that water had begun to seep into the bunker, and several of the reserved ammunition that had been stored in metallic boxes and cardboard boxes got wet. So in many cases, the metallic boxes with the 5.56 ammunition would have started to rust, and water also started to seep in. This was also happening with the 9mm ammunition that was stored in cardboard boxes that became wet and waterlogged. The bunker was built with concrete, and then it's covered with dirt and grass, and over a period of time, when rain fell and water went through the dirt, it seeped into the bunker through cracks in the concrete, said the official. Usually one person will have a key for the bunker, and that will be the regimental sergeant major, and the team that is responsible for the reserve ammunition in the bunker will be the ammo techs. These reserved rounds are not easily accessible, and only a few have authority to go where these rounds are and access it. So in this case, they would have overseen the removal of the ammunition from the bunker to the next building. Usually, young soldiers would be called to perform the task of moving the items. A senior Army insider indicated that in addition to allocated rounds are used for daily rotational duty. These rounds must be checked and accounted for every single day at each camp and are stored in a different location, he said. But how come such a significant number of reserved ammunition was discovered missing only after such a long period? Well, hear this. In October last year, Colonel J.P. Rochford took over the Komoto Barracks, and it was he who ordered a physical check into the reserved rounds in early February and realized only then that it was not physically accounted for. Despite what the books would have shown, several members of the battalion were alerted to this. So, what did the books show? Well, according to the books, when was the last inspection? You know, something like this to me, I don't know, to me, how I would expect a military base to run, something like this is supposed to be extremely easy to solve. Because there are people with responsibilities. And the buck stops at the people with responsibilities. So, the officer in charge is going to prison. I'm saying, to me, in my mind, looking at this from the outside, which officer was in charge is going to prison. You start doing things like that, and all of a sudden, like magic, you're going to notice, wait now, these military officers know how to control their underlings. They could stop their underlings from selling ammunition if they want. But as it stands, this investigation very likely is going to be buried, hidden, and browbeaten for a very long time. We might not get anything from this. Over the last few years, shell casings marked with TTR and TTPS were found at shooting and murder scenes, raising questions about the accountability and procurement of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service and Regiment's arms and ammunition. While a small number of spent round casings from the TTR have been discovered at certain murder scenes and other crime-related scenes, in the last 2 to 3 years, another senior army officer said that a considerable number of rounds remain unaccounted for in this instance. So, they don't even know where some of these bullets went. 3-man team begins probe today. Army ammo missing. An investigation by the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment will start this morning from 10 a.m. A 3-man team has been appointed to probe how the ammunition was unaccounted for according to the February 13th Regiment special orders, which have been obtained by the Express. According to the document, the team comprises President Lieutenant Colonel D.S. Edwards and members Major B. George and M. Brooks. The document sets out the procedure for the probe, stating that evidence is to be taken under oath, solemn affirmation, or by the appropriate means in accordance with the provisions of the Army Act 1956, Rule 13. It states that if it appears to the board at any time during the inquiry that any person may have committed an offense against military law, including civil offenses contrary to Section 78 of the Defense Act of the Laws of the Trinidad, the President is to adjourn the inquiry and seek legal advice from the regiment's legal officer. The special orders state that 7 witnesses have been identified to attend the inquiry, all of them soldiers. The board has been mandated to give reasons for its findings and to determine what action has been or can be taken to prevent a recurrence. And you know, to me, this fits in with some of the discussion I regularly have regarding the general permissibility of arms and ammunition in the country. I see a lot of the political advertising from one group now is focused in on allowing law-abiding residents to own guns, and I am for that. Just so you know, I am all for that. I am in full agreement. Full agreement. Let the people own the means to protect themselves. On the political side, though, just saying so on the campaign trail is not how that gets done. Because technically speaking, we already have room legally for people to own firearms. So what exactly are you going to change? That's just on that note. But the apprehension I hear from especially the ruling PNM about not wanting anybody to own guns because you know how violent this country is. If this country got out guns, you know, this place can go mad with this amount of violent people. So, okay, only law enforcement should be allowed with arms and ammunition. And we literally have our law enforcement selling guns. Not in the proverbial way, not in the way we just say it, like, oh gosh, well, they're all selling guns. No, they are literally selling guns and ammunition. So we aren't to be armed, the regular citizens of the country, aren't to be armed. Only leave it for law enforcement and criminals. And law enforcement helps to arm the criminals. So how would that work for us? What's the position of law-abiding citizens? Trapped between criminals with guns, law enforcement with guns, and the law enforcement helping to arm more criminals. Go figure that. Go figure that. Griffith has questions for Hines on missing ammunition. National Transformation Alliance political leader Gary Griffith has questions for National Security Minister Hines about the missing ammunition. In a statement on February 17, Griffith acknowledged the TTDF has launched an investigation in accordance with its standard operating procedures. He claimed Hines seems reluctant to launch an external probe to ensure the public perception of credibility of any investigation. Griffith said for the last 3 years, Hines has wasted millions of taxpayers' dollars and over 500,000 police hours on a politically motivated witch hunt targeting legal firearms. And that's true. I know that, Hakeem. I always say that. All of those politicians are armed. But it's very interesting. And I said this when this investigation was launched. Why are we launching an investigation into legal firearms when most of the murders in the country, the vast majority, are committed with illegal firearms? There are more murders committed with regiment defense force ammunition than with legal arms. So why are we investigating the legal firearm owners? Very strange stuff. Griffith said Hines' failure to act on missing TTDF ammunition while wasting time and resources on a pointless fishing expedition proved why his marginalization from office and his complete removal from politics were long overdue. Last month, Hines said he would not stand for re-election as Laventille West MP. Griffith also asked if Hines may have fed the National Security Council misinformation about the missing ammunition that put the entire nation at risk. The NSC is chaired by the Prime Minister. I think 25,000 plus rounds of ammunition missing from our regiment, while we are fully aware that they are being used in murders, is as big a criminal issue as you could have. This is as big a national security emergency as we could have. To me, we're talking foolishness in this country. Our Prime Minister is jumping on the foolish bandwagon with the Mexicans to sue gun manufacturers in the United States in American courts, hoping for what they alone would know. Maybe he shared some of the product that the Mexican cartels produce. Because that makes no sense. That's what we jump up and down about, joining a foolish, stupid lawsuit. 25,000 Jew. over 25,000 rounds of 5.56. 5.56, in case you don't know, those aren't the pew rounds that you use in handguns. 5.56 is what they like to use in the AR-15s. The rifle war that the Zessers be zessing with, the long guns, 5.56. 25,000 plus. The exact number. What's the exact number? 25,573 rounds of ammunition. I believe when they worked it out, it was something like 26 of the steel boxes disappeared. This is as big a national security issue as anything could be to me. I don't think anything could really be a bigger national security issue than this. That's a lot of bullets. When you're talking high-powered rifles, that's a lot of bullets. You can see why these fellas, obviously, they don't care about the number of bullets they use when they do a shooting these days. Like, gone were the days when you hear a shooting happen and it was 3-4 shots maximum. These days, these guys come and do a shooting, and within 5 minutes they offload a few hundred shots and drive off. You're like, well, this is the when they say corn, like it's really corn. This thing is like corn that they're picking off a tree. It's nearly free. All you have to do, and you notice it, just look at the number of bullets these guys use when they go to do what they go to do. They obviously don't seem to have great concern for running out of ammunition. And then why would you, when you have the unending supply of the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment? How does that work? My goodness is right. My goodness is right. And I'm waiting to see what the authorities say, but as I said, to me, this is something that you need to go red alert maximum reaction for one time. This is horrible. This is horrible. We can't just leave that there. This is something the Prime Minister, National Security Minister, there needs to be a press conference, all of that. It's how the heads of the regiment still have a job. That's what to me, this is something the head of the base, everyone in the chain of command to deal with that, on leave, pending criminal charges. How you mean in a country like ours, you'll lose 25,000 rounds of 5.56 ammunition? That is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. If you are a private gun owner, and the police did an inventory on what you are licensed to have, and upon doing that inventory, the police found that you were missing 25,000. Well, if you even got permission to get all that amount of bullets, but you were missing thousands of rounds. Hey, Ronnie, you think they're just going to be like, well, we'd investigate and see, and what happens in the next 5 years or whatever? I don't think that's how that would have gone now. Not at all. But y'all, with the talk of guns, we are in the political silly season, as they call it. We are in the political silly season, and silly things come out. And one of the silliest things to come out in our politics is the talk of race. It's an election smear. All them Indian is thief. Kamlan corruption claims against Munilal. Corruption allegations against Oropuch East MP Dr. Rudal Munilal are fabricated and a racist strategy to campaign in the general election that all them Indian is thief. So said opposition leader Kamla Prasad Biseso in response to fresh allegations of corruption and financial impropriety brought by the Estate Management and Business Development Company Limited in a civil claim against a group of contractors and Munilal, the former housing minister under Prasad Biseso's government from 2010 to 2015. The new allegations are that payments were made by some of the defendant contracting companies to third parties connected to Munilal and the UNC. The Express asked Prasad Biseso by phone yesterday if she was concerned about these new allegations, given that she was Prime Minister when these alleged corrupt practices occurred. She responded, not at all. This is the 10th year that the PNM has been pathetically peddling these same tired allegations without getting anywhere. Every election, EMBD is the PNM manifesto because they have no achievements to speak of. This is a desperate civil case created by PNM operatives with the sole purpose of smearing the UNC because the government's attempt to fabricate a criminal case flopped after wasting hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars. The UNC screening committee is expected to continue screening, yada yada yada. Prasad Biseso said the fresh allegations conveniently came up in a general election and insisted they were PNM propaganda. Why should these foolish allegations, which were fabricated by PNM operatives at the EMBD and PNM Eater Food lawyers, impact our screening process? This is the same pattern as the Emailgate hoax and the Nelson fake indemnity scandal, she said. Where is my food? Many of the same dunce PNM lawyers were also involved in these. These allegations have no merit and therefore are inconsequential to our screening process. The same contractors that the PNM are suing in this case have been participating in building the $200 million Balize house. Make that make sense. Dr. Munilal's family did not collect $250 million in rent in that entire fabricated case. Here's something strange for me though, right? If Tanti Kams is saying this is just a them Indian does thief thing, and the PNM is lambasting that in this case, how could you in the same breath say that the PNM is still using the contractors that are involved in the case? How is it an Indian thing then? Again, also, that's correct, Ronnie. It's either they have been peddling this talk for 10 years or they brought it out for election. It can't be both. A lot of the things she's saying is kind of... They can't both be true at the same time. And if you were following these cases, the PNM didn't refile this case magically this year. It was appealed. Dr. Munilal and the defendants appealed the case. It just went up to the Privy Council. That just finished. So it's restarting back at the bottom level. And then to appeal the case going right up and then complain about the lawyers being paid for fighting the case right up is, I mean, a bit much. Because the lawyers are paid based on how long the case is drawn out. So if you drag out the case, well, of course the lawyers are going to be paid more. I don't see how it's an Indian thing though. That really doesn't make sense. And she's saying this is what they're going to do for the next election. Let's look at this. Let's look at this. the next election in Trinidad and Tobago has set, as it stands right now, for the slate, the two prime minister options, Kamla Persad-Bissessar, who is an Indian, and Stuart Young, who is a Chindian. Isn't he Chinese and Indian? So, the Chinese Indian going up for PNM is planning to use an attack vector that all them Indian does teeth. After they ran a nice flowery puff piece in the papers talking about his Indian family down in deep south, in rural South Trinidad, his Indian roots. What are we talking about? How does that add up? To me, I think Tanti Kams misfired one of her defensive weapons here. Maybe out of force of habit. Knowing that in election season, this is always a nice, useful defense weapon to pull out from your belt and fire a shot. Race! Pew! Unfortunately, this time the shot doesn't make sense. The shot doesn't add up. Like, previously it might have had a little sway, but it really doesn't add up now. What racism? Indians have nothing to fear, says Prime Minister. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley's news conference today, well, bear in mind this today is February 14th, that's Friday gone, is to address opposition leader Kamla Persad-Bissessar's defense of our approach East MP Dr. Rudal Munilal, who stated that the fresh corruption claims against him in the MBD court matter were fabricated, alleging that all them Indians thief. The Prime Minister lambasted Persad-Bissessar and sent a message to the nation, particularly to East Indians, saying, you have nothing to fear from the rest of the population. The law will determine who is police and who is thief. This is a particularly offensive comment by Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessar. And I think the fact that Dr. Rowley came out so quickly after she made the statement in a whole news conference. He called a press conference for this. A mystery press conference. Sent out an alert to all the press, all the media. Come down, we have something important to discuss. To give a rebuttal to Mrs. Persad-Bissessar's unwise campaign strategy. And I think this is the proof. If the UNC was looking for proof that this attack vector, this attack method doesn't make sense, this is the proof. If it indeed was something that the PNM had some exposure with, Dr. Rowley would not have said anything on it. How long they find this ammunition? Did he call a press conference for the ammunition? But he called a press conference for that. Why? Because it's to the PNM benefit to keep this nonsense in the news. That kind of rhetoric is to the PNM's benefit for it to remain bubbling as a headline, as a sub-headline for as long as possible. Here's a statement I have said many times regarding certain factions of the UNC going in a certain direction. There are not enough racist Indians in Trinidad and Tobago to win on a Indian we versus black people them ticket. That's just the reality. There are not enough racist Indians in Trinidad and Tobago to win on a we versus them racial division head. You're just not going to win on that head. And the UNC, to me, still keeps attempting to pull on that thread. There's no pulling on that. You are not winning with that. That's why Dr. Rowley ran in as quick as he could to say something about this and create another headline. Because it's not a winning strategy. Kamala faces race card backlash, of course. After intense criticism from Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, opposition leader Kamala Prasad-Bissessar has come under fire from political parties and even a UNC MP for attempting to frame the court case and corruption allegations against Dr. Rudal Munilal as a racially motivated attack. They believe that the electorate is no longer willing to tolerate divisive race-based politics. In a statement on his social media page, Komoto Manzanilla MP Dr. Rai Ragbir, who is out of favor with Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, lamented that instead of addressing the allegations leveled against her deputy leader regarding the MBD, she decided to stoke racial tensions. It is ironic. It is ironic, he said, that someone who loudly professes to be anti-woke, lol, ha-hi, funny stuff. It is ironic that someone who loudly professes to be anti-woke has now conveniently decided to play the race card for political mileage. Instead of uniting people, she is seeking to divide them, a strategy that will only lead to further disillusionment among UNC supporters and ensure that the UNC crashes to a third straight defeat in the coming general election, Dr. Ragbir said. And that's a good point. Tanti Kamala is running a very close parallel train to Trump and the Republicans, the conservatives out there. And then you're going to still play the race card while running the anti-woke ship? Patriotic Front leader Michaela Pandey said her party was unwavering in its condemnation of the recent racially charged comments that seek to divide the people of TNT. On Thursday, when asked by the media if she believes Dr. Munilal is the victim of a political witch hunt, Prasad-Bissessar, well, we know what she said. Pandey believes any attempt to use race to incite the population is an attack on the soul of the republic. What it does is it starts negative commentary on social media. People start bashing each other. And how does that help anybody? So yes, what she said triggered my statement because I saw so much vile rhetoric on social media, Pandey told Guardian Media. NTA leader Gary Griffith said Prasad-Bissessar's comment reeks of hypocrisy. In a media release, Griffith said, when similar investigations by the TTPS were conducted into individuals affiliated with other political parties, including high-ranking members of the PNM, no such allegations of racial bias were made. The public will recall the investigations into Roger Kawal Singh and a high-ranking member of the PNM, as well as investigations into the dealings of Camille Robinson Regis, Marlene McDonald, and even Prime Minister Keith Rowley himself. Griffith said if there was a plot to go after people of Indian descent, then Prasad-Bissessar would never have been exonerated from issues such as Emailgate and the plant-like substance matters at her home. Sometimes I forget that Tanti Kams allegedly is a stoner out there. Tanti Kams allegedly is a junglist. She burning on the green. She pulling on the green stuff, allegedly. a short reply to Guardian Media via WhatsApp yesterday, the opposition leader said, "Don't be mad at me for being truthful. I only said publicly what everyone whispers about privately." I disagree. I don't think everyone whispers about that privately, actually. But let's look at Kamala's politics. Kamala's right turn. Is the UNC following a global trend towards conservatism? An interesting thing also bear in mind is I believe Mrs. Prasad Bisasa, at least her page, shared this article. So she seems to be in full agreement that she is going down that right-wing line. The thing is though, I don't believe them. Just before we go into this article in full, I don't believe them. I do not believe that any political party in Trinidad and Tobago, even the UNC and their partnerships, are heading down a right-wing line. The UNC has teamed up with the OWTU, the Oil Workers Trade Union. Trade unions are not right-wing. Opposition leader Kamala Prasad Bisasa's criticism of former President Joe Biden for what she deemed a woke and extreme agenda may have shocked some and drew condemnation from others, but her statements and her subsequent defense of them are not unprecedented. The country's first female prime minister has within the past few years adopted a rhetoric not dissimilar from current President Donald Trump's, who in his first hours in office 2 weeks ago signed a flurry of executive orders on issues of immigration, gender, and diversity. They were points on which President Trump had campaigned from as far back as 2016, and which form tenets of the right-leaning Republican Party's drive for a return to common sense in America. But calls for stricter immigration policies and deportation, stand-your-ground laws that seek to make easier citizens' ability to own legal firearms, and skepticism levied against the establishment have been peppered within Prasad Bisasa's speeches from as far back as 2020, on the heels of the general election and the COVID-19 pandemic. In defense of her remarks aimed at President Biden weeks ago, Prasad Bisasa on Tuesday extended a list of points on which she questioned the PNM stances. Prasad Bisasa herself stated in her release, "My record will show that since 2020, I have been advocating against this far-left extreme insanity." Ronnie says she's looking for a trend wave to ride. If Joe won, she would be more left. You know, I am not sure, Ronnie. Because since, they're saying since 2020. But I think it was since 2016. Since Donald Trump won, every subsequent election that Mrs. Prasad Bisasa did and campaigned for, she had more and more of a Trump flavor. So I'm not sure that it's all just looking for a wave. I wouldn't doubt that some convictions may be right, but I don't think it's in line with Trinidad and Tobago. I don't think the divide that the United States has is the same divide that we have. All right, their comparisons of her stances, similar to Mr. Trump's, start with vaccine skepticism, when Tanti Kams talked about fake vaccines, when she said sunlight will kill COVID. Here's the thing, that sunlight will kill COVID statement, the sunlight will kill COVID statement actually was not totally false. there was some truth to that. Sunlight will kill. Just saying. In hindsight, guns, right to bear arms. Throughout the UNC campaigning for the 2023 local government election, the party proposed the introduction of Stand Your Ground legislation, which it touted as a means to make legal firearms more accessible to law-abiding citizens and combat home invasions and violent crime. Just so you know, that's not true. Stand Your Ground legislation is not how you get the firearm. Stand Your Ground legislation is how they would hold you responsible for the use of the firearm. The problem right now in Trinidad, as I keep saying every time this comes up, the problem we face in Trinidad is not what happens when we get the firearm. If you have a legal firearm in Trinidad and Tobago and you let them have it when they come in your house, you are not going to go to prison by and large. We do not have a problem with that. We do not have a problem with, as they say in the United States, the woke George Soros prosecutors that attempt to prosecute the law-abiding citizens and are more on the criminal justice reform and help criminals more. We don't have that here in the same way. So Stand Your Ground isn't what we need. We need a revision of the law itself that allows for people to apply for the firearm on a whole. Just so you know. On July 31st of that year, Prasad Visesa spoke at a UNC meeting, expanding on the proposed law and cited a story of a woman who was killed by a home invader. Under the Stand Your Ground law, she said, when the criminals invade your homes, you can draw your licensed firearm and light them up. Empty the whole clip. Empty it. Light them up. We have to fight fire with fire. Much similar, I guess, to the right wing's view on arming the population and their Second Amendment. But again, as it relates to Trinidad and Tobago, that argument doesn't fit here perfectly. It doesn't fit because we do not have a Second Amendment. So to bring that argument, what you have to propose is introducing a law like the Second Amendment. Introducing a law that makes it part of the understood right of a law-abiding citizen in Trinidad and Tobago to bear arms. If that's not what you're going to do, you're not going to make a change to that, then Stand Your Ground doesn't change how people get to access the firearms. They would still have to apply to the commissioner and hope that the commissioner gives them an okay in time. That's where the problem is. Immigrants and deportation. In the aftermath of the killing of the elderly Winston Thomas last November, Prasad Visesa issued a lengthy statement attributing his killing to illegal Venezuelan migrants. Thomas, 69, was taken from his penal home by Spanish-speaking men. Police were told he was later found deceased in the backseat of his vehicle near Golconda. Days after his killing, Prasad Visesa called for action against Venezuelan migrants, whom she said were committing crimes against citizens. I will not stand idly by as this current government has done and allowed more citizens like Mr. Winston Thomas to be terrorized and murdered by illegal Venezuelan migrants. This, I think, there is an avenue for political mileage in Trinidad and Tobago. I do think if you jump very heavily on the anti-Venezuelan migration train, you're going to gain support. To be honest with you. Like, I think people who are on the liberal, more progressive side overestimate how popular those things are. They think like the majority of Trinidad just loves the idea of Venezuelan migrants coming and helping them out. I think actually, if you were able to get that question to each individual Trinidadian, the answer may disappoint some of you. I think a lot of Trinidadians do not want them in the country. They talk about that in the United States. They talk about that in the United States. Something like upwards of 60% of the US citizens are okay with deporting all illegal immigrants. Not just those who do wicked crimes, no, all of them, every last one. And I wouldn't doubt the number would be similar here in Trinidad and Tobago. Could be upwards of 75% of Trinis are okay with deporting all illegal Venezuelan migrants. In fact, many of the legal ones too. So that might actually be an avenue. The thing is though, I don't know how hard she'll drive the point, because I haven't heard her really dive into that of late. She hasn't really sought to drive that point home of late to this last election. So I don't know how much she will tackle it. But I think there are some points to be gained there. Bring religion back into schools. Prasad Bisasa also last year announced her intent to restore religion to the nation's classrooms if elected in the 2025 general elections. She was speaking at a town hall meeting on education in November when she responded to a question on the performance of denominational schools compared to state schools. A question asked by an audience member proposed that all schools in the country become denominational, to which she responded, on the issue of denominational schools, you are right. They are doing better, and it was my proposal. We have not thrashed it out fully, but the new UNC government will work with all religious organizations to bring religion into schools. All denominational schools, and for others who are failing and trailing, we want to partner more with religious organizations. Interesting. Now, I will say that the last time Tanti Cams interfered with the education system, it was for the negative. Because it was Tanti Cams who gave us this every child have a place nonsense. That, I think, was a horrible idea. And I think that was, as it were, the start of the downfall of the Trinidadian education system. Every child gets a place. No. No. If you aren't at the level to leave primary school, you aren't supposed to leave primary school. Anonymous says, I don't think that teaching religion is the role of the school. Here's my say on that. I don't think teaching religion is the role of the state. I don't think teaching religion is the role of the state. But I do think that religious institutions have a role in education. So here's where the problem actually is to me, Anonymous. I think the state should get out of education more than religion should get out of education. Education, since time immemorial, has always been facilitated by religious institutions. Fact. And education is the grooming of a child's mind. So I do think there should be religious education inside there. But I understand that you don't really want the state in charge of that. So the problem isn't that education and religion is bonded. It's that education and the state is bonded. So that when you try to put religion in education, when education is bonded to the state, you end up with religion, education, and the state, all three bonding together, which is not something you really want. And I understand that. But I'd rather my child go to a religious institution to learn. Certainly over a state institution. We say our prayers over at Mindful Education, just so you know. Just so you know. Hit us up. But I think it's not that It's not where religion belongs. I think the state has overstepped its bounds in many different areas. The state has overstepped its bounds. The thing is, though, I am not sure if the state getting involved in it even more, which is what is going to happen if Tanti Kams does what she wants there. I am not sure if the state getting involved more is going to solve the problem. Roddy says, I rather my child's team dance than go them government schools. So I guess there is a relation there in the religious aspect. And finally, woke agenda. Though she had initially congratulated former President Biden for his win of the 2020 US presidential race, calling the result a victory for democracy and the dawn of a new era for the American people, Prasad Bissasa's views on Biden seemed to take a turn when Vice President Kamala Harris lost the election to Trump last November. And that's where she lambasted them for the woke behavior that they had. In her defense of her own statement following widespread backlash, Prasad Bissasa doubled down on her initial critique and cited gender reassignment surgery, drag queen shows, transgender women, gendered pronouns, alleged forced health mandates, removal of religion in schools, and the alleged censorship of free speech as examples of things that occurred under the previous administration. Some of these points were similarly raised in the GOP's platform. She was in the middle of sleep. The host here was in the middle of sleep and decided to just jump in. You ready to go back and sleep? Ready to go back and sleep? Tell the people hi. The rise of the right wing. Analysts say Prasad Bissasa's statement may bear a surface resemblance to those repeatedly echoed within a rising global right-wing, right-leaning political landscape. But the question of whether the United National Congress political leader is following a trend towards the right, as has been throughout Europe, the US, and which some analysts say they expect in upcoming Canadian elections, is not so simply answered. Speaking to the Express last week, analysts noted that Prasad Bissasa's statements were specific responses to issues occurring domestically that are not necessarily attached to a global movement from center on the spectrum. Here's the thing. The UNC is not a right-wing party. And I don't believe they are going to become a right-wing party. They are melded in a coalition now with the OWT, which is a union. Trinidad in general is a conservative, socially conservative country. So socially conservative views will be by and large more popular here. But social conservatism is welded, melded, and bonded to right-wing economics, at least in the context of US politics. That's not the same thing here. Both of our parties are socially conservative. And here's the strange thing about Kamala Prasad Bissasa being the anti-woke candidate, the one who wants to seem more based, if you will, if you know that term. If we're looking for the more socially conservative party, between the PNM and the UNC, I would say the PNM, which was the first party to have someone who was visibly LGBTQ amongst their ranks, which was the first party to put, is she a trans woman? Joelle down south, which was the first party to put Joelle in our parliament. So, if we're to go with social conservatism, I would say the PNM is the more socially conservative party. Then, if we were to go with right-wing politics, as in free market, individualist, anti-collectivist, PNM have who? Who is that? I don't know who you're talking about there. Who would be the more individualist party? Well, according to how you look at it, UNC may very well be seen. What you say? That man do a children? Rani, I am pretty sure I saw that man with children. Behave yourself, eh? Yes, if we were to talk about in terms of economics, who is more individualist and who is more collectivist? The UNC began as the ULF, the United Labour Front. Even up till now, the UNC by and large is still seen as a Labour party. Labour parties are left-wing because labor unions are collectivist. So even economically, UNC may be more left-wing. So the UNC may be more left-wing and more woke than the PNM. The one area that I think the UNC would win points in that kind of battle is in populism versus the elites. As in the regular people versus those who come from power, prestige, and name. The PNM is the status quo. So they obviously have the elites, more of the elites, and they seem to pander to the elites more. While the UNC seems much more okay with new people jumping in the fray. And that may be a topic to pound now on. And to me, the direction that Mrs. Prasad Bisasa usually takes with it is 1%. I think the 1% talking point is gone. That was back in Occupy Wall Street days. Occupy Wall Street is dead. That was 2009, 2010. That's gone. I don't think the 1% talking point works. Elites versus the regulars, that works. And I don't think Tantikams has the social conservatism to win on her side. I don't think she has the right-wing economics to win on her side in that Trump parallel. But she does have the battle against the elites. And that one does appeal to a lot of people. She just said the other day on the increasing salaries that the PNM is forcing her to take that wage increase. She wanted to refuse it. She didn't want it. And I mean, that's going down that kind of discussion where you suggest that I am one of you. I am here like you. And we are against those people who just want to get benefit for them and themselves. That battle against the elites, that's effective. Anyway, I have to go put the host to sleep. And we have to go put you to dodo. You have to go sleep. You're not going to sleep. What you gonna do? You see the mosquito? Yes. Tell the people there's a mosquito around. The people see me sleep in your eyes. Tell them later. Alright, well, you're gonna count for them? You counting? How much you counting up to? You have to count out loud. 1,
2,
3,
3, 4, 10,
11,
12, 13,
20. Very good. All right. Latest people, that's all I have for now. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. This has been the Mindful Live. I am your co-host Nathan Springer, joined by the great host this evening. Tell the people bye. That's all we have for now. Stay inside. Outside sketchy. Go make some of these. And be sure to hit us up on Mindful Education if you're looking for some of those classes, full-time, part-time, in person, and online. If you're looking for those, as usual, hit us up, Mindful Education, wherever you find us. Message me too, I respond, I reply. Until next time, people, laters. I am out. Bye.